Okay, I've got 6 o'clock, so I'm gonna call to order the Belleville Village Board of Trustees meeting for Monday, November 4th. We could do roll call.
Yep, President Larson,
Present.
trustees Bateman,
Here.
Eichelkraut. Here. Kazimir,
Here.
Ward. Present. Ziegler,
Here.
Service.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Was the meeting
The
posted?
meeting was posted as required by.
Next is public participation. Public participation allows citizens to be heard on any agenda and non-agenda items or item. The public may also comment during the public participation section of each item. The village board shall make no decisions or consideration of action of citizen comments for items not on the agenda, except to refer the matter to the village administrator for administrative consideration or to schedule the matter for board consideration at a later date. If you've got a comment, please state your name, give you approximately 3 minutes. So. Judy?
I have a question. Judy Botcha. On the bills, there is a check or entry made to MSA for Bell West First Division Phase 4. So I assume that's the new one that's coming in. So Petrie will be billed for this, correct? When's the last time the developers got billed?
Lee.
Monthly? Thanks.
Any other comments? Okay. Okay. Anybody else? There is no. So next is consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member requests it, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered the first item after the approval of the consent agenda. This includes minutes from October 21st, the check register for October 2024, appointment of trustee Eichelkraut to the Parks and Recreation and Forestry Committee, and appointment of Teresa Burkhardt to the Police Committee.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Second. Yeah. Motion by Tony. I'm gonna give that to Maxine. Any further discussion? All in favor?
I,
Aye. Opposed? That carries. Next, presentation, proposed village budget proposal, or budget presentation, excuse me, and final FMP discussion. Okay, hand it over to you.
I will start it off. Brian is virtual. And then, so I will do the initial budget presentation, and then Brian is planning to follow up with anything that's outside of mine. So I'm just looking at the screen. This is also attached to the agenda and it is also on the website. So tonight's agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about our financial philosophy, going over 24 budget highlights, 25 budget highlights, the tax levy schedules, challenges that we face, overview, talk about capital projects, special revenue funds, and enterprise funds and utility impacts. This has all gone before the Finance and Governance Committee, who was made the recommendation to approve the draft budget to you all. You guys will not make any final decisions tonight. No final decisions made tonight. This is more of a chance for you to provide any last minute feedback to me prior to your approval. So that is your deadline. So any changes that really need to be made now, let me know, because this is really your last chance before the 18th, because we have tax printing deadlines. He needs to go out to residents. He needs to get special assessments out. That's when the timeline is. So we have enough time to make changes, but it has to be now. So our financial philosophy, our budget is based on strategic management principles, which allows us to use more data-driven decision-making. That's the strategic plan, core plans, a comprehensive plan. Our goal is to get more data-driven. That's why we do the residential surveys, to kind of get that feedback, to know how are we doing, where are we at, are we meeting our goals, are we aligned with the board's philosophy and residents' expectations. And then benefits of financial planning. We can conduct 5-year financial planning models through the financial management plan, which is why Brian is so heavily involved in the budget process. We do each one of these steps with Brian in the finance committee. And so we're making sure we're there, making sure we're aligned. We preserve capacity to respond to future needs we're able to invest in the future and we're able to prioritize public safety infrastructure and employee retention and recruitment. So that's one of the main reasons why we use financial planning as a tool. Our budget highlights for this year, we are exceeded our revenues by, we are now 114% to our budget. So our budget revenues were 2.4 million, we're now at 2.8 million. Part of that is our state transportation aid came in more than we expected, which is great. But also we are conservative in our taxing with, we're conservative in our budgeting approach in general. We don't assume more than we feel like we can carefully take on. We had more tax revenue than we thought we had because just more houses popped online, did great things. And our governmental aid is not quite there yet. License and permits, not quite there. The fines and forfeitures, the PD has been very busy this year. As Cody, I'm sure, can help explain, and a lot has gone through our municipal court. And that is also, we don't budget, we don't expect revenues from the municipal court, but it's great when it happens. And so we are up in that line. Public charges for service. This is a lot to do with our fines or our fees schedules that we have updated. I know, MSA just gave us some new, or GEC just gave us new rates. So we'll probably be bringing that to the finance committee here very soon as well. From the updated rates to see how that matches what we is now. It will not impact. And then miscellaneous revenue. Any questions on year-to-date, Brendan? Year-to-date expenditures. We're at 88% of our budget. General government, we're pretty much there. Public safety, pretty much there. We look to be on track with the budget. The only thing that's weird is salaries for PD is fine. Benefits for PD isn't. It's just a little bit under budget or over budget. We under budgeted a little bit. Not sure what's going on there. It'll be more of reconciliation will allow us to figure out what happened. It's not major, not concerned. We are perfectly fine. We're not gonna go over like the general thing. I'm confident on that. Public works and cultural recreation, education. We haven't had a public works right 10th of the year. Well, public works has generally not spent their budget in the past either, to their fullest extent. We are doing better and actually spending and investing in public works. We're just not there. And community development is exceeded. A lot of that has to do with our increased with going on with zoning and enforcement and all of that. Anything bad?
This is great.
Judy, did you have a question?
A minute ago, so much better.
It's like, Judy's got a question.
Yeah.
Is the year-to-date expenditures at October?
10/31.
Right. So we've got 2 more months to cover.
Yeah, but also with this, a lot of big things happen. It's not like every month is the same. We do a big thing and then we don't do anything. So like, I wouldn't say just because we're at 88% now with 2 months to go, we are on track to be under budget from where we expected, I believe. Never know for sure, but just look at the year-to-date revenues, 2.8. We're at 2.4. We still have $400,000. If you truly count year-to-dates, we're not gonna hit it. That's where I'm not terribly worried.
Dude, we're paying, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Because October would have been,
Each month, roughly.
yeah, right. for 2 months.
But
I didn't hear.
2 payrolls.
2 months of pay. It's fine.
So our tax levy impact, our general, so this screen allows us to see how much are we taking out for the tax levy and then where's it go? And so for the general fund, we're actually out of the residents' taxes, it's going down 13%. The library fund is going up 11.8%. The majority, that is because we took 60,000 from last year. We are now adding 4,000 back. That's normal, that's not a concern. Senior center, flat, they didn't raise at all. The CDA that is, we're trying a little bit more grants. We're covering a little bit of the deficit that's in CDA. That's where their 209% increases. Forestry is a new budget section this year. We separated it out from Public Works into a new special revenue fund. What the Finance Committee made based on your recommendations and your advice to the Finance Committee was half a special revenue fund and a special charge, half of it from the tax levy. That is what this presents today. And then debt service might change a little bit based on numbers from debt, but it's not significant to my extent, to my knowledge. So with this tax levy, if you approve it as it is, it's going up 0.1%. So 1/10 of a 1%.
What
So
was that, Gabe?
it's going up 0.1%. So 1/10 of a percent, the village wide. So our tax rate histories, green is the green line, Dane County is the red line. We've been pretty constant with 2016 through 2020, with green just a little bit above it. That changed in 21 with a big dip, big rise in 22. We're now getting a little bit closer. Brian, financial plan, if we go through, is then projecting the next 5 years. So I'll let him walk through that, but this is just the tax rate as we have since 2016. Tax levy impact, our residents in Dane County are gonna benefit significantly this year. Not significantly, but better. Their tax is actually probably gonna go down a little bit, 24 cents. So a $200,000 home, they're gonna see about $48 less.
48,000?
Yeah, $48.
Good work, Ian.
Right, you did great.
Close.
Then the 400,000 is gonna see $96 difference. Not terrible. And the one thing that I do not ever recommend is a raise taxes, lower taxes, raise taxes, lower taxes. It's a constant, it's a steady growth. The other years we're gonna have to raise it a little bit more than others, but we never should go down. That really hits residents, because that next year you're just gonna hit it right back up. And you don't do it for goodwill, because goodwill doesn't last long. It just, you maintain the constant, you just maintain the steady growth, which is why we have a financial management plan to help us see those 5 years. You don't go up, down, up, down, up, down. You just, if we can, a steady incline that we have to. This is that. Dane County, great. Green County is lucky. Green County is gonna get hit a little bit harder. I'll let Brian help a little bit more explain that if you have more questions, but Green County is gonna go up a little bit. A lot of that is assessed value. Dane County is newer. They've been assessed more. I think some of it was TID, right?
This is it out.
TID out. So
There was zero votes in Green County.
yeah. So, and it's still, they're going up, but we're only going up 0.1%. So this is about the best we could do. Budget schedule, we started in Q1, January, February, with the residential survey. That's something we'll do every year. This year was a little bit bigger because we had the strategic plan mixed in that. Next year is just kind of an update to that. How are we doing? What's going on? What's your biggest priorities? See how those change. That's kind of that data-driven decision making. And then department heads start talking to me about the CIP. What are their wish lists? What is going on? Mary might have, let's get another DS 200. Like, what is the implications of that? Why do we want to do that? Start walking through some of those things before then we present that to the financial management plan or present that to the finance committee. We go through that process in Q2. I review those with Ian. We make sure everything's aligned. We build the CIP. Q3, you actually approve that. So again, we do the capital plan first because that's debt. That has nothing to do with the tax levy on the general operational. That's why we do budget first or capital first and then operations second, because there are two very different budget sources. And so that's why it's separate. That's why we keep them very separate. And then Q4 is financial management plan wrap up, public hearing, budget approval, what we're doing today and next week. Our budget challenges, as you all know, the state doesn't hit us this hard, but this year, but levy limits are a big thing. We're only allowed to go up a certain percentage based on our net new construction. We haven't exceeded that, and we do have some room to increase our budget if that is something you wish to do. I'm not recommending it, but you do have room in your budget to increase. Residential financial capacity. Our residents are burdened enough with a lot of other things that we're throwing out with school, with us, So financial capacity with residents, like that is the challenge. And so we have to keep that in mind. Inflationary pressures, there's a lot of things that we can't keep control of. In insurance costs, we're just bare insurance, the other stuff that just gas prices, we can't control that. We just have to budget for it and keep it in there. Health insurance costs went up 11% with the state plan. Every municipality across the state that uses the state plan, UW, school districts, they were all hit the same. We have an aging infrastructure plan. I'm not saying it's bad, but we are now at the time that little things are starting to break. Motors are failing, the buildings are fine, we don't have to expand it, but it's just, we're starting to get a little bit of that more of the operational maintenance. So it's coming, keeping that known, keeping that cognizant as we're starting to plan things out and we're using the capital budget. Do we need to replace a motor here and there? It's gonna start coming. What happens when you have a 20-year-old facility? But the facility is fine, it's just some of the parts are not, and then equipment costs are. Yes, Judy.
Where's the infrastructure in? When I mean infrastructure, I mean streets.
That's in the capital budget, and then part of that is in the village budget that's also attached to this. But we also have a capital slide. Budget overview, so all the funds together, that's special revenues, that's everything, is 17.6 million. It's 131 increase, but that's just to the TID projects. We took out $8 million of debt. Which doesn't mean we're necessarily doing all of the TID projects, but that is the biggest source of that change. Our general fund budget is 2.7 million, which is a 2.4%.
Took up to 8 million in debt. We haven't taken that debt yet.
Well, you took it. It's just,
We haven't drawn on the debt.
you approve,
We
well,
approved potentially taking the debt.
yes. You have a better way to explain it.
Have the ability to draw up to that amount.
Correct.
All we've drawn so far is 100,000, that was the minimum requirement.
We put it in there though,
It's
because
budgeted for.
That's what you have.
Like, I just don't want to say we took 8 million in debt because we haven't.
It doesn't count against our,
it
I
doesn't,
understand. I'm just. People listening to this on a recording or attending live are thinking, oh, we put another $8 million in debt on. We didn't. We're taking potentially 8 million for projects that are paid for by the TID, but
it's just how it shows.
I understand.
Highlights, our budget is balanced by state law. Your budget operations and revenues have to be balanced. We don't have a choice in that. So our budget is balanced. Our essential service levels have maintained or enhanced. 1/10 of 1% for property tax increase when we did a 3% COLA cost of living increase for staff. Health insurance rates increased by 11, and then the budget includes the 2024 decisions that you made, new apprentice, new assessor, new IT firm, and your new website. So all of those changes that you made this year have now been included.
Judy.
I have a question for you, Gabe.
Yeah.
When you talk about money from TID,
Mhm.
and I'm trying, because you're talking that direction. I can't hear you sometimes, but, for example, in the priors, you've got the, trail and you got the top property. Okay. Those are coming out of the TID, so they would be in the budget to show levy.
That's TID funds, so we're taking geo debt back by TID. So if the board approves, let's do a project.
There's no impact on the levy at all.
No.
But I don't know how that works. We're taking back general obligation debt.
Debt that would be paid back by the TID,
Not backed by a tax levy.
not by tax levy. So no impact to the levy at all.
Okay, so in other words, I'll have to ask Brian that question.
That is here. General fund snapshot. Taxes are for the 24-25 year up 9.7%. Revenues are up 11.4%. Our expenditures are up 1.2%, almost 1.3%. I will walk through this whole section. Is there any questions on this? General fund revenues, which 70% of those are taxes in a different state where you actually, where sales tax and stuff like that play. this number should be different. Wisconsin, we don't get any sales tax in municipalities. Goes to the state. We are now finally getting 1% of that 1 penny, but it's split across, and that's where the state share revenue is coming from. But I would love to see it a little bit down, but that's not entirely possible. Intergovernmental aid is 21%, public charges for services 4, miscellaneous revenues 3, fines, forfeitures 1, and license permits is 1.
Do we get the,
I'm sorry.
what do you call it? I want to say expense reduction.
Restraint program.
Expenditures, yes.
Okay, we're eligible for that here.
Yep, and we're eligible for it based on our financial management plan for the next 5 years.
So that, and
For the
we're,
next 5 years, we are eligible. General fund snapshot expenditures, public safety is 44% of our general fund. General government is 38%, public works is 12, cultural recreation and education is 3, and community development is also 3. Our expenditure type, we're spending 46% of our on our general fund on personnel, 23% on contractual services, 15% on operations, 14% on other, this is for transfers, and then 1% is professional development. General government overview, I won't walk through every budget section. Any questions on the general government? This is your general operations, village board, admin, attorney, assessing clerk, HR, finance, IT, municipal court. Any questions? Yeah, Jimmy.
All right, you want us to ask questions now?
Whenever,
Get them for some reason.
whenever you have questions, feel free to ask.
Okay. Page 37.
The budget,
9220. Well, that's what I got from, I'm looking at. Whatever they send as part of our package. Anyway. With the transfer to special revenue funds of $73,049 and 20 cents. What is that?
so anything transfer, are you talking from the? Are you talking about the actual budget?
Yes. Wait, I'm sorry, wait.
Oh, no, what page were you thinking?
On page 37, 59320. Is the news.
Transfer to special revenues.
Transfer to special revenue.
So that is, we pay, so the library, urban forestry, CDA, any of the special revenues, that take tax levy, senior center, they are funded by the tax levy. That's what that is. It comes into the general fund and it goes out through that. Public safety, police department, EMS, fire, emergency management. Emergency management is killing the budget, $79. Public works overview. Going down, a lot of that is, it's because we're taking forestry out and putting it in its own section. Culture, recreation, and education. Community development.
Mentioned. The only thing that is different in forestry in 25 is 30% raise for our staff. Everything else is exactly the same as this year.
So our major capital projects, you guys technically approved the capital projects earlier, but when we go through during the actual public hearing, you have to approve the 25 projects again as part of that public hearing. So the vehicles, so the major capital projects kind of broke them up into 3 major sections. Vehicles, we're purchasing a new PD squad car, a new public works F-250, and for EMS, we are part of an ambulance purchase and a command vehicle purchase. EMS wants to buy our former squad car. That was their ask. That doesn't have to be your decision, but I do have in the capital budget that we are paying part of our own vehicle. So that is a conversation that we're gonna have to have. Fifth projects, we've talked about it, like Jeff alluded to, you approved us taking out the budget, it'll show that, but we haven't actually taken it out, it's up to it. And then it's a drawable note that we can, as the board start approves projects. So we approved a new park, walking trail, street improvements, property acquisition, and then beautification. We're looking at Main Street planning, community park redesign, Sugar Road Park refresh, and then park and welcome signs kind of just enhance the look throughout the village. It's kind of have a cohesive, unified approach to what our signs look like.
Judy,
You mentioned the police, that EMS was, okay, so how much would we be selling it to?
we haven't
We
even
haven't
had that
discussed it.
conversation. It's not a topic for tonight at all.
I understand that, I just wanted to know if it was, because I remember Cody said in the meeting that,
It's not a topic for tonight at all. It has nothing to do with the budget, other than that's something we're responsible for. That's it. I mean, I'm like, we can't give you an answer, Judy. Like, I don't have any idea. We're not even discussing that tonight.
Fund balances. Great, and this will change this year, hopefully, but our general fund for the first time in quite a while has a positive in our reserve account. Limited, but we are starting to build it. That's a great, we were, when I first started, six figures under, so we're slowly but surely building that up. Feeling better about that. Yeah, fund balances, this is just, we have to put it in the, notice, but we're no CDA is low, we're working on it. It's not the biggest concern, just don't let it grow at this point. We're doing recycling, saving a lot of, we need to fix it, but it's where it's at right now. Brian can expand during his presentation. And then this is the other half. And then the last section is utility rates. So our utility rate changes for monthly bill, this is the average user, 24 through 29. If things go as we expect, projected change over the planning period is $15.20 for utilities over the next 5 years. Water, when we increase water, we are increasing sewer. Storm is increasing, and we'll show that every year. It shows that it's large percents, but it's really, it's not, it's less than 70%. So it's not, it's high percentage because we started so low. Water rate impact for the regular user. So these are our water rates, projected. This is what Ellers presented our last, finance plan. That's when Kayla was here. Yeah, Terry.
When will you be, applying for the water rate increases
I think
for the state?
Qualify, it would be 25.
if we qualify 25.
Simple rate case.
Okay.
So, our sewer's going up $15 a month?
No, that's your utilities in general, all utilities combined.
That's over the course of the
And of
next
course,
5
5
years
I
collectively.
just wanna get it right, so don't say. Okay. $15.
Tell them just to go reference this PowerPoint. It's on our website.
And our balance to the bill, $5,000.
That's what's in technically in your savings account, the reserve account.
Okay.
It's growing each year. We got the, dam, giving money back, like, through the audit, we'll see actually how much it is a year. There's like,
So that goes into capital, which is negative, whatever, but, so whatever's left over would likely be transferred to the general fund, but that's up to these guys. After we take a look at year end.
We can't speak. What is your question? What is
now my
that?
question is, I was trying to hear what he was saying, something.
He's just saying that it's complicated, that the funds that are left over end up going to the general fund based on what the board provides guidance to. But the reality is, again, I think Gabe mentioned this, the general fund at the end of the year, a couple of years ago, was negative like $200,000. So we literally just got positive last year. There's a good chance that it's probably more than $5,000 at this point, but we don't know until we
That's why the
do
office,
the audit and figure out for sure, but the trend is in the right direction of having a positive balance there. I mean, if we look at our policy for budgeting, we should have about 3 months worth of expenditures in that account, so that's a lot more than what's there, obviously, but we're not gonna raise the levy, we can't raise a levy, we're not gonna go out to referendum to say, we need to fund that account to this level, because you guys would kill us, so.
yes,
Can I ask another question? But
absolutely.
the CDA, what does the CDA owe? I know they're in the black. Or what are,
133,
huh?
133,000.
It was just 80,000 the last thing. Okay. 133. Can you tell me how we did that?
Yeah, that's this,
Oh,
that's the building we're sitting in.
Thanks. Okay.
And then the last is stormwater rates. So. Any questions? The next step is, if you don't have any questions for me, we'll go to Brian. And then the next step after that is November 18th is when you all the budget. Final, if you didn't see when I put it up on the screen, the 185-page budget document with all the numbers in it, the differences, the explanations, the justifications is also attached to our website, also attached to the agenda. Take a look at that. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out as well. And it's also printed at Village Hall for public. Yeah.
Yeah. Four questions pertaining to that. Now, you're going to wait until after the presentation. and we're going to-
Yeah, it's fine.
I finished my part, so whatever you have.
Okay, let me get them right away. One of the things that I noticed is that, and I look primarily at public works and police, not technology. That jumped out to me. There seems to be some fairly big increases in some of the category taxes and benefits, and I assume it's primarily benefits. Is there a reason why those particular accounts, like, public works administration, 17,751 salaries, but the benefits went up 10.6, streets benefits went up 25, parks benefits went up 25, and that's taxes for 2. So anyway, is there some specific reason as to why those particular categories?
We now have 2 superintendent positions shifting from different funds, different perspectives and percentages based on what they work. So every year, those percentages are going to change based on how much they're actually doing it. So like the public works superintendent is going to be more in public works administration versus the utility superintendent, which is going to be more in utilities. And so those items will change a lot. They will fluctuate. Streets, both taxes and benefits went down. And then public works administration salaries went up 17, tax and benefits went up 10, which is proportional to what it should be.
So in general, the other thing I noticed is that there's some big shifts in, monies from one account to another. Is that because I know previously you were doing some changing as to where the actual,
We changed a lot. We changed all of our numbers last year to match. This is the second year of it now. And so that's where the changes would be.
next question is, urban forestry, are we hiring somebody, more time than what we presently had?
No, urban forestry.
So the salaries benefits are higher than they were this year by quite a bit.
That's because of the change that Ian mentioned earlier. And then also part of that is. I get to it. The actual document will be linked. I did not spend time linking it if you had made changes.
I guess my question is there more time being added?
More time has been added to it.
Okay.
Yeah, to that part of the budget, there's more time being added, but it's allocated from someplace else, basically.
Okay. The last question, I think. And that was the health that is. The lake restricted fund balance, what is that for the payment? Is that
The
the
lake,
lake restricted fund balance for $1.6 million?
that's the bequeathment.
What?
Bequeathment, the Fisher Trust.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So,
Any questions from you all? Brian, I'll let you take it.
Sounds good. If you want me to share my screen, I'll need to, I think, be made a presenter. And I apologize. What's that?
I think Mary knows how to do that.
I feel a little complicated from this position.
You,
I
I
did it.
was gonna say, you could do it just from a
Okay.
little bit.
You should be able to share now.
Yep,
Yep, single.
perfect. Looks like you guys can see it.
Yep, and this is what's in front of the trustees and is attached on our website.
Okay, great. Apologize I wasn't able to be there in person. Having some fun car issues today and therefore vehicleless, and it's just a far walk. So we're going to look at some of the final results, going through some of Gabe's materials there and looking where the budget sits. So Gabe did kind of walk through the levy change from prior year, like he said, 0.1% for the 2025 budget. The one thing that I'll note is I believe you're still finalizing payment schedule on two notes, the annual CDA note and then the 2024 GEO note as well. So debt service may change, but that's going to be small as we've put our best foot forward with all the information that we have now. You guys are just signing on the dotted line whenever you execute those financings. Looking at kind of levy limits, then this is a very important part of municipal budgeting. We've kind of walked through this in a previous presentation, excuse me, wherein our current minimum allowable levy is 2.6 million. And then we have a levy need of the 2.7 and change. So you can make an additional debt service adjustment, basically using the abated debt. So debt paid from utilities or tax increment districts, etc., not paid from the levy. You can claim it on the levy limit worksheet in order to raise your allowable levy so you can levy for the other needs that are unfunded by your minimum allowable levy. So this has kind of been the consistent message last year and this year. So then kind of to be a little more detailed as to how we got to the tax rates, late in October, the DOR released the statement of assessments for both Dane and Greene County. Based off of the actual assessed valuation, we're looking at $10.56 for Dane County and $10.85 for Greene County. Basically, the biggest change there is a slight variance in the TID out equalized valuation, which is what determines this allocated levy number. So actually the allocation increased for Greene County based on the variance between Dane and Greene County. So that's basically with no real large levy adjustment, why you're kind of seeing a slight difference there is they get allocated a little bit more. Again, that's based off of tit out equalized values. So that tells someone like me there's, you know, fair market valuation growth within the Greene County total area when compared to the Dane County total area, which is kind of a unique circumstance, but that will fluctuate each year, and that's how it's kind of determined. So that said, they're getting about $500,000 of the levy on the 46 million in value, or $500,000 on 46 million in value. So, and then we did look at a sample property value. Understand we do it a little differently than what Gabe depicted, as there was no property revaluation. Therefore, nobody's assessment changed unless they made an addition or built a house. So up until you do a revaluation, then you would go to fair market, and that property value would change. And right now we're kind of trying to take the average residential property value from your statement of assessment to determine this kind of property value. So looking for the ongoing planning, kind of building beyond the 25 budget. The main reason we do this is to make sure that we're on par with kind of the overarching, you know, vision and goals of the municipality, looking at whatever objectives we have on impacts to taxpayer, levies, you know, tax rate, et cetera. Looking at any new service initiatives, kind of doing some of that forecasting. And a lot of times what our forecasting is more or less a financial stress test. That's not to be doomsday, but that's just to kind of say, knowing that you rely so heavily on net new construction, what happens if net new construction goes away? So that's kind of the crux of what we're going to show. And then beyond that, kind of looking at some of the capital elements as well. And we build out a future capital improvement plan and showing how each of those is funded in the future, as well as to project out your future debt service levy. So before we dive into the projections, some assumptions were made on general fund expenditure side. We categorize expenses into certain categories, and then based off of historical performance as well as conversations with village staff, we come to an agreement on kind of where the linear trends should be. And then if there are any initiatives for new hires, we would add those in as kind of a non-linear trend, but now resetting, you know, the standard for those expenses in that year. But that said, all we had here was linear trends added to the forecast based off of the cost categories, and came up with the percentages applied. So the projected levy beyond 2025 and going out for the next 5 years, we can project out those expenses relative to all the operating categories. So that would be kind of the top 3 lines here, where we're looking at the general funds, library, historically refuse, not anymore, and then CDA, senior center, and urban forestry. So they're looking at just identifying where are those operating funds going in the future, and then also the debt service. So there, just one element is anytime we're taking on new debt, depending on the magnitude of the new debt, but generally thinking about an inflationary environment and how much, you know, capital improvements cost these days, generally it's hard to kind of structure in some of that new debt into your existing debt profile. So we do have some of that in the near term, where we will see some jumps in terms of debt service levy need. That'll all be dependent, however, on whether or not the village moves forward with those projects and funding them in the manner that we've prescribed here. So to look at that, we kind of initially say, let's look at our minimum allowable levy. And what we're saying there is basically what net new construction allows for an increased base levy, plus just claiming the debt service as is, and then weighing that to see, do we have enough with just that, or do we need more from our abated debts like we do this year to kind of get over the hump. So there for 27 through 2030, we will. One thing that I'll mention here as well is we did show this with kind of urban forestry being self-funded, not funded by the levy in the future as well, just because we've shown it other ways in the past, and the picture just kind of gets worse if it's still relying on levy, of course. So we just did want to show it a little bit differently here. So if you're wondering kind of why we go down, that's one of the reasons. But all in all, looking at this kind of stress test on the, if you remember, the assumption on net new construction is basically a 50% or half of your 5-year average. So we're trying to say, what if you got very low net new construction for a series of 5 years? Where are some of our pressures? Here, 27 through 30, we have about 60 to 70,000, right, that we need to come up with through abated debt, that we essentially would have for a period of time. However, later on, we are showing that we're fully funding our debt. Therefore, kind of no abatements. However, that will not be true because at some point in time, we're going to probably take out a long-term issuance of the note anticipation note for those TID projects. So whatever you draw on, and then when we're ready to flip that note into a long-term financing, that would create another abatement source. So just identify there that we would certainly have some additional flexibility in the future. Looking at the future projected tax levy and then rates. So the orange bar is just taking the total tax levy from the previous slide, and then we project out valuations in the future. One thing that I'll note is when you see significant drops, that's generally due to a revaluation shown there, and kind of assuming when those would happen. So we have valuation years 25 and 29 in there for budget years 26 and 2030. So one thing to note there, those tax rates are obviously hard to predict, to just kind of show where it would be in the future. One element as well is we are continuing the assumption of low net new construction. So if that net new construction gets higher, your TID out and TID in assessment values will increase, therefore potentially decreasing these tax rates as well. Looking at expenditure restraint, I know that came up in one of the questions. This works on a budget to budget basis. So it's not actual to budget or budget to actual. It is, or actual to actual, it's just budget to budget. They give you the payment the following year after your budget, should you qualify with that budget. So in May every year, the community is required to file their expenditure restraint worksheet, which identifies their, the budget that they usually adopted in the latter part of the prior year and could have amended along the way. So you're actually submitting any amendments as well. But that said, you do get paid out the next year should you qualify. So right now there was no restriction last year. The state basically said if you qualified the previous year, you automatically qualify. Bit of a nuanced discussion as to why they did that, but essentially they were handing out more money through Act 12. Therefore, you would have had to increase expenditures in order to receive those monies. So they didn't want to say, here's some more money, but we're going to take away expenditure restraint and punish you for increasing expenditures. So it was frozen. You could reset your floor for the future kind of going forward. So we did that last year. Now for this year's budget, under the budget presented by Gabe, we would look to qualify there. One thing I'll note is this is a budget to budget exercise. So they're understanding that each year you're setting your ceiling for qualification, but then it'll set the floor for next year's qualification. Many communities will use a function in order to increase and maximize their ceiling every year. They basically create a contingency expense line item that's designated to expenditure restraint, meaning do not touch this within the year. And then they have a matching revenue of a fund balance applied, and they would designate that as ERP as well, basically to say we are not actually designating the use of fund balance, but this is a budgetary mechanism in order to math out the system and maximize our ceiling in one year and therefore our floor in the next. So I did show this allowable adjustment to kind of give the village a sense of what the maximum contingency add could be. If you are going to use a function like this, I do generally recommend that it's a budget amendment done in March, because a lot of people don't understand it, and therefore they may think, oh, you're increasing the expenditures, therefore the levy is going to increase, which isn't true. So if you do it after the levy's set and tax bills go out, there's no way you could question that, because we literally can't increase the levy after you've paid your taxes. So that would be one thing to just kind of look into, as you're working towards May. If you wanted to increase the floor for next year, it's a function many communities do. So some final thoughts. You're going to need to continue to use abated debt to fund, your operating expenditures, while long-term, not ideal. Many communities do find themselves in this position. If there is no more abated debt, then we are having the referendum discussion, or we're talking about merging services, or there's much bigger conversations that need to be had. However, the message should still be received that this is an ideal way to operate. If your base levy can't recover your operations and you're relying on abated debt, you could have a floor coming where obviously that debt goes away pending future decisions and future boards. And like I said, we only have the next 5 years. We're okay there, but obviously that may not always be the case, depending on what is borrowed for, if it's abated debt or not. The one thing that we are seeing here is just stronger budgetary practices. This FMP is the second year of doing this, but looking to see how the budget went last year and looking at some of the year to dates that Gabe just presented and we've been discussing along the way here is, we have been looking at increased fund balances. You have a few other elements going on in the village that may help to increase additional fund balances, whether that's TID performance or others. But we could certainly see continuation of those increased fund balances, given the improvement of the budgetary practices. The other thing that I'll mention again too is that tonight's goal is not accuracy. Tonight's goal is messaging. And what we're trying to do is make future decisions easier and provide some education in terms of how the village operates within the framework that it works in. And then looking to say, are there things that we can control in order to determine what future tax rates and everything kind of look like? So just note, it's hard to project that tax rate because those values can fluctuate. And what we're trying to do here is, again, more or less financial stress test, lower net new construction. So the message shouldn't be seen as, oh, the tax rates are going to skyrocket, or, we don't like how the tax rates look. Again, that'll fluctuate not only based off future valuation, but future budgetary decisions as well. And when we get to executing those decisions, that's when we're making the minute changes to make sure that we are controlling the tax rate in a manner that makes sense. So with that, I can take any questions.
I've got a question, Brian. Can
Yeah.
you go back to slide 9? I think that's about you mentioned, yeah, this one. So when we talked about the levy need excess or the deficit that's gonna start around 2027 for 60,000, almost up to 70,000 there by 2030. I think you mentioned that this is being modeled without any forestry expenditure in that special fund, basically, or levying for that.
Correct.
Is that correct? So basically, when we look at the budget for the calendar year 2025, that's $100,000, but generally you're dropping that by about 30,000, which would effectively, if I'm looking at this correctly, would improve those numbers by about $30,000 if we just kept it steady for those following 5 years. Correct?
Yeah, it would improve it in terms of increase it. Your deficit, your excess would go down in 26 if you're levying more, right? We're setting the min allowable levy at what your base levy is, which is what did you do last year plus net new construction. And then we're adding in this number to say we're just claiming what we need for debt service as a first standard, and then kind of saying if there's a deficit, that means abated debt has to pick up the tab for the operating funds. And that's the exercise there. So it could, levy could support urban forestry for another year. But then it might be an issue, 27 and beyond, because then the deficit goes to like 90,000, right?
So it's the opposite direction than what I'm thinking, actually.
Correct.
So that the deficit is actually extended when we get out a couple of years relative to that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And is that problematic when we start looking out? I mean, what other tools are out there to address that? Because if we're talking, I'm assuming, obviously we're talking about debt abatement not being the great tool for the long term. And we're looking at it for like 4 years here, but is that insurmountable, or is it concerning? When you look at this, that's probably the biggest thing that jumps out. But is it something we should be completely concerned about?
I, would say that for the foreseeable future as depicted on this slide, I'm not concerned as long as it's understood that, ideally we should be operating without it, but right, in order to operate without it, we have to increase other revenues or decrease expenses. And without those things happening, that can be problematic. I think as it relates to a financial stress test, one thing I'll kind of point out is we basically freeze the non-levy revenues for the most part, or we'll take like 5-year averages, but we're conservative there. The budget's pretty conservative beyond 25, as we have those linear projections that can cause those expenses to increase faster than they may year to year. For example, like we started with a higher levy need in our initial presentation than where you guys landed, right? So if you were to look at last year's presentation, right, we had a higher levy need for 25, and now you guys have made your budgetary adjustments and came in lower. So, lowering expenses essentially. So that said, there's flexibility for that to come down. The other element that I would say there is the Act 12 money, or the supplemental county municipal aid. We did freeze, and that should go up with the economy, given that it's tied to sales tax. Now, how much may not be a lot, but at the same time too, that should provide, we did that conservatively, freezing it, and it could go up, generally should go up. So that would provide additional revenues, reducing, levy needs or pressure on increased levy needs. So again, I would say this is like worst case scenario, and you have a lever you can pull to cover it, which is the good news. Is it what we want to do in perpetuity? Probably not, because that would require continual debt issuance and probably a, you know, just kind of operating under that context that could go away. So
And my second question, because I'm a slow learner, can you explain or try to explain again the difference in levy increase for Dane versus Greene County? Which I know was on a couple earlier slides, but like, why is it such a significant increase for Greene County residents rather than Dane County
Sure.
residents are actually receiving a slight decrease in their levy?
oh shoot, I don't have it open. You got to look at tit out equalized value, and that's where so you set your full levy.
You had that one slide up that was part of that presentation that actually covered it, because it was, I was following, but I was like, I'm trying to like get it in my head, like it was in this, this slide.
The biggest portion, from what my understanding of it, and Brian can help, is it's tit out, so it's not included in the tit, but Dane County's been growing. Dane County's been increasing. We have new growth, we have new businesses, we have new, people are making enhancements in Dane County. Greene County is not. Greene County is staying static. No new businesses have been, no new houses have grown. And so the portion and the shared of it, that's where it's going to increase because there's less people to help share that burden. But Brian can help explain if I.
Yeah, I'm pulling up. It's also equalized. So what you're seeing here is tit out assessed. But I can pull up the bigger stuff that doesn't fit on a slide to kind of show that variation. Okay. Let me just get to it here and then I'll show it on screen.
While you get that up, Brian, I got a question, not for you. Actually, I don't have a question, I have a comment. Greene County does not have anywhere to grow to except to the west a little bit. And there'll never be business in that section at all. This is all residential.
If the board approves it, when it comes to the planning commission, we're about to have 250 homes proposed.
Yeah,
Which
but it
is-
is a business.
Yeah, but equalized value is also a home value.
Yeah, correct.
So that's gonna be a huge change for Greene County.
But it won't take place in 1 year.
No,
So are you guys able to see the Excel that's up now?
Yep, we've got it, like
Okay.
the two rows, yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
assuming
I'm trying to,
The top row, I'm assuming, is Greene County, the bottom row is Dane, I'm assuming.
yep. So, what you're kind of seeing here is the equalization split tit out again, changed from 23 to 24. Basically, Greene was getting 15 or 16%. Now they're getting 18. And then Dane County would get the remainder or the bigger chunk. But the split between the two changed from
So
20
what's-
value
what's-
year 23 to 24.
What's the logic for the value going down so significantly in Dane County from 2023 to 2024? Why does that
Question
number go from 343 million to just under 300?
It's probably a couple of things. I would imagine just the majority of the growth happening within the tax increment district, recognizing that this is tit out. That could be one of it. The other elements that, like maybe the more nuanced elements, might be a question for the assessor, honestly, that they could better provide an opinion on that.
So it looks like it was growing and then it just drops, like, what, 47, 48,000, 46,000, 46 million, excuse me. Which I think that likely is the reasoning, right? if those numbers were steady, the split would be similar, you know?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Terry?
Doesn't make sense to me. Why it goes down when all the growth is in Dane County.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I wonder if it does have something to do with the TID, but I think to Brian's point, it's a question for the assessor. I don't know if we're gonna get an answer tonight to that, but I don't disagree.
Adding on to that. Re-eval is supposed to be taking place in 2025, according to the previous budget, by the time I was on the board. Now it's being pushed back. Does that have any effect?
Yeah, revaluation would, yep, not huge effect on the split because that's equalized. So when you're going through a reval, you're essentially changing your assess to meet equalized for the most part. So it's going to change the tax rates more than it would change the split because this is already equalized, you know, fair market under the assessor and the DOR agreeing to it. So
Where is that 297 million number coming from?
sure. So I just pulled it up because I figured that was going to come up. If you go to the DOR's website, type in municipal debt limit. It's kind of a weird place to go get it, understandably, but the nice thing is you don't have to calculate it. Everywhere else you'd go, you have to go take your full equalize, subtract out full equalize, and then subtract out the TID increment. But here they do it for you, so that's why I grab it here. But this is Dane counties, and then
Can you look at the previous year version of the same chart?
sure.
Cause even then, there's still a significant difference. So it's 287 to 343.
Okay, let's see if I have here.
I was just wondering if there was a significant drop in 24 that didn't show up in previous years. It doesn't look like that's the case.
Oh, the one element is we were probably working off of an assumed number in this old, like a planning number before these came out from this amount, because I'm off a little bit. So let's just see what the actuals do here. Now you got me questioning everything.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Well, again, why did that total value drop? I mean, was that saying that the value of my home decreased? Well, something had to make that number go down. I don't understand what made that number drop like, what is it, 150 million bucks?
Here it's going up. So let me just check this. No, it looks like it was lower than that 300 million number in 23. It looks like it's 287. So that means it went up 10 million. Okay, so 299.
This is 22, so it's 259.8, 287, and then 297. Something like that.
Yep.
What did Green Commons do?
It was pretty flat. Like
It's
it's
flat?
pretty flat. Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the just under 60 in 2022, and then it went up to just over 60, I think, and
Because Dane County went down. What was that?
well, it didn't go down, except for that last year, I think is where it's like, that's where it doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but that's,
But what I'm trying to get at. Number did decrease, it went from 3 something to 2 something. And because that number went down, Dane County's proportion of total tax went down,
correct,
but Green County's went up because
Correct.
Dane's went down.
correct, right, right.
That's Green County had been here. I mean,
Well, I mean, and that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out is what's the true reasoning for it as to what's the cause of that, because that's a significant difference, right? Obviously, Green County's
yeah, that's,
getting hit. And it's significant enough that it seems odd.
Right, yeah, I think we got a better sense here, right? This is more in line where it's increasing slightly over time. So this number was wrong there in terms of how I got that data, I'm not sure. But this EV split now makes a little more sense. Both are increasing slightly. Net ratio should remain relatively the same.
But if it remains relatively the same, then how does that impact the end percentage
Right.
increase for the levy?
These are allocated.
Sorry.
Yep.
according to what you had before, the mill rate was supposed to go down for Dane County, correct?
Yes,
Slightly, yeah.
Now it should be not going down as much as what.
Likely it wouldn't go down, it would actually go up slightly, but, or not significantly, but
Yeah, let me get this on my bigger screen.
I want to see the final numbers before I know what the end is.
Do we want to come back to this while Brian works on this?
I'm fine with that. Is that okay with you, Brian?
Yep.
We'll
We'll move.
table this for the time being and then we'll just come back to you and we get a
Be
break,
ready for us.
if that works. Cool, thanks, Brian.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody object to that? Okay. So next, we will go to old business, discuss and consider resolution 2024-28, authorizing the issuance of $595,000 of general obligation notes.
I hope everybody read it.
Could you read it through this? No.
We got a lot of weird responses back, the RFP. The best response we got back was from Bank of Alma. But they only wanted to do a balloon payment at 5 years, amortized over 10. And so I brought that back to Bank of New Glarus and asked them since they were the closest that they could match the interest rate with the terms that I originally wanted, and they said yes. That's the program.
So this is basically to take on the capital debt for 2025.
The resolution is actually to take out the borrow, and then the next action is to award it. And it's, I don't know why it's split up, but it's the same thing with the interim financing, right?
What interest rate did we give us?
6.78%.
0.78%. I originally thought it was gonna be lower for the 595,000, because I thought that qualified to be non-tax, but it's taxable issue. Because we're refunding ourselves for money we've already spent.
I'll move that we approve resolution 2024-28 authorizing the issuance of $595,000 general obligation.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Gary, seconded by Maxine. Any further discussion?
That was the best interest rate we could get, right, Ian?
Yes,
Thank you.
taking back, I'm all taking back stuff.
Gary, did you have a question?
No.
No, okay. I just saw your hand. I just wanted to make sure.
Should say actually, back in Declaris, their original was 7.05, I believe, was their original bid. Like I said, they were able to match. They could.
Judy?
Yeah, can somebody tell me what we're borrowing at 595,000?
It's the capital expenditure, so it's like the squad car.
Well, no, it's everything that was spent in 23
Was it
and
23?
24.
Yes, this is refunding thing we've already.
Oh, gotcha.
Every year with capital budget, we would
It's
issue the debt
Gotcha.
after we do the projects. We didn't do that after the 23 projects. We're now doing it for the 23 projects and what we did this year.
So that would include probably a squad car from 23.
Yeah, well, what is,
It's a whole long list at the last meeting. Didn't we see that? Or-
I didn't know.
Okay.
That's agenda.
okay,
But yeah, the semi car from 23 is there. Most of the things have already been spent. I think the biggest one that has not been, I guess, completely spent was the CD notes to school. So we went ahead and preemptively took out the entire 90, even though we're only, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15,000 into the spend for that.
for the school.
Safe routes to school.
Oh, St. Rose's.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, because there were a couple items that were on that list that we paid for or whatever. We took off. We reduced the list a little bit from what you originally gave us.
With the Vine Street project with the engineering.
Yeah.
It was the,
Couple items together, so that's it.
Okay,
Okay, so we had a motion by Gary, seconded by Maxine. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes. Next is discuss and consider award issuance for fiscal year 2023 and 2024 projects. And again, I think that was what he just described, is that's the
Bank of
Bank of Glarus based on competitive bid from Bank of Alma that went to Glarus and Glarus matched the rate.
So we sent to Lake Ridge, Bank of New Glarus, Capital Bank and Bank of Alma.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll make a motion that we award the Bank of New Glarus be awarded, however we need to word that, that they'll be our debtor or our issuer
Second.
Okay, so got a motion by Gary, seconded by Deb to award our borrow to the Bank of New Glarus for the debt issuance for fiscal years 2023 and 2024. Any further discussion on that? All in favor? Aye, opposed? That carries. Next, discuss and consider Vibrant Spaces Grant.
So Emily is here. She's the chair of the CDA. She's been kind of communicating with WEDC, which is the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. We are a member of the Connect Communities in the Main Street program. We had been in the past. It missed my email and now I re-upped it. I have a meeting with them tomorrow. Tomorrow to just kind of walk through the program, walk through projects, just kind of what are we not taking advantage of that we should be taking advantage of? But Emily's here to talk about actually a specific grant opportunity potentially, kind of walk through that, but.
Yeah. You know, with the CDA, we have enough, we've met as a group to talk about potential projects, but some of you might be, aware that this, grant, if you were at an EDC meeting a couple of months ago, we talked about it as well, but these grants honestly don't come around every year. So when they do, it's always a nice opportunity to see what we can put forward, if at all, in terms of a competitive application. The issue is, of course, is to make sure that it's within the framework of what the board and all of our new business owners and our community master plan, make sure that it's consistent and a coordinated and thoughtful approach. So we're just, interested on behalf of the CDA to see if you have any thoughts or ideas. I'm happy to do the heavy lifting. It would not take, if there's a project, the application is not cumbersome, I'm happy to put something forward. We've had a couple of ideas, but we just want to, again, make sure that everyone's on board and excited about it. If you're not familiar, it's really to activate public spaces in our village. And, revitalize something that could be programmed, could be brought new life. So really, go ahead, Gabe.
Emily came up with really two good ideas that she sent over to WEDC. They provided feedback. One is Library Park, between the depot and the library park, potentially shutting off that street. We had talked about that, not all the way, because the post office still needs access, the bike trail, and then that parking lot is ours, so we would still maintain it, but can we better enhance that space by just cutting that street off? It is our street. We do have the ability to do it. This grant, they said that was a pretty good worthwhile project. The other project that we had come up with that Emily ran with was Vine Street, just
On the north end of it.
north end of it. We had talked about it in the capital project, and we had talked a little bit about it in Public Works. We just don't know where we're going to head with it. But do we make that entrance into community park something different? We have a really good opportunity to kind of reimagine that. It's not a great space right now. Can we do something with it that enhances it and livens it up? Part of Tim Stallman's thing is he wants a kind of a path behind the businesses along the lake and the river. He's doing that. While he does that, do we do this? So we want to know, is there any other ideas that you guys have? Or do one of those ideas, you're like, yeah, I kind of like that idea. Do you want us to start actually looking into it? Or do you not? And do you want us just to dive into WDC? I guess it's for us, what direction do you want us to head?
And again, it's a public event. A private property owner does on his or her private property is up to them. This is really, in the public domain and then to activate a public space in like different ways. So, yeah.
What about the historic library?
What,
Historic library.
what about it?
We have a nice shell of a building that's useless inside.
Remodeling it?
It's the outside, the exterior, but
Never mind.
We already did that.
I don't think both of them have, they're good projects. When we talked about the North Vine, I think that this looking at whole block, or are we just looking, because, there is an alley through there now, and the drive up for the, pharmacy and stuff like that, so, I mean. But if we wanna beautify, I think there's a word.
I think it's more just the entrance to the park. I think it's
Okay.
more, like, it's the community park. It's the fact that, like, at least for me.
So the
it's
bulb more.
The bulb.
The
and
bulb
parking
on
lot
the, on the
behind
end,
Okay,
in the,
alright.
potentially the parking lot to the west,
So
right, that's there. But that whole green space is sort of just an eyesore in my
Yeah,
opinion.
no, I,
But it's also like, that's like the most heavily walked area of the whole village is right there. That to get to the bridge, to get into the park, that just says like, that could be so much more, right? Cause you also have, if you open that up in a couple different ways, you could see the back of the dam, you could see.
we always used to joke on the EMS buildings there, that Jimmy Hoffa's probably buried in that hillside there, you know, so we started.
We might dig him up then.
Yeah, that's right, so, I mean, I think that's fine if we're looking at the bulb and more the entrance, but not the whole road, I think that's probably the better of the two probably, because you know.
The things that we own already. We don't
Yes.
have to-
Yeah.
Right,
But if we do the entrance, we need to do the road something.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's more of phase it out. What do we think it would look like? So do you like the Vine Street entrance to the community park idea better, or do you like the depot idea better? Is there,
well, I think until the depot gets to deciding what's happening there and, you know, I think we should go with the Vine Street personally.
or is there a different one?
Yeah, no, the only other thought that I had, which wouldn't be a major adjustment, but it's like I'll call them the display signs that are right on the trail, that are ones in the library park, and then there's another one behind the post office. That those could use some updating too, because those are kind of, yeah. In my estimation, they look
Yeah,
like they've seen better times, but
we can do that.
that wouldn't be a huge thing, I don't think. But I'm probably much more inclined to go with Vine Street than I would be. If we have to pick one, I would be probably aiming towards Vine Street myself. Just because I think there's still a lot of question marks relative to the depot, and that's a different,
We're just not.
what that space looks like, I'm having a hard time envisioning it until we make a decision relative to what all that looks like, right? Considering.
So if there's if you are in consensus, we'll start running with the Vine Street.
Does anybody have any, I don't want to speak for everybody, I'm just speaking for myself. Anybody have other ideas?
And I have a lot of resources that are publicly available, that we'll use for the application, and if I have any questions, I know where to go.
Awesome.
So,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And Brian might be ready.
Brian's ready? Okay.
Yep.
Wow us with your math, Brian. you-
Well,
Poor taxes for everybody is what you did in that time, right, Brian?
it just equalized them between the two. Let me share my screen.
That's
So
what
I
you
think
figured,
what
so
was,
it's like a
yeah,
7% increase for everybody or more than that.
no, it's level, right? You're only levying like $1,000, a couple $1,000 more. So I have the split now and just want to show that through 19 and right, just kind of general increases there both ends. So I think there was bad linkage to wherever I was getting the 23 number for that. But here now looking at a change, and I can hide some of the other fluff. Dane counties is about a 0, which actually stands to reason thinking about the variance between the two counties in figuring out the allocated levy didn't change much, and we're levying about the same amount. And then there's, little growth in the TID out assessed value, right? So that tax rates should be about the same and no change. Therefore, in the bill, unless you built something. And then the Green County actually is about the same, but went down a little bit, which makes
They're
sense
not-
because it should be
they're not getting
sharing less of the burden.
Yeah, they're not getting an increase of $400 a
Right.
head.
hmm
And we're not getting a reduction, we're getting a slight increase basically in Dane County.
Dane County should be even. I mean, I can go out a couple more decimal
It's
places
involved.
to see. Yeah.
Okay.
Slightly higher, yeah, by a quarter penny.
So the slide that I had broken out, I will have an
Update
updated
that,
slide
right.
of that with Brian's numbers agreed.
Hmm.
Does that help a little bit?
Makes more sense.
It does.
Cool.
Cool. Thank you, Brian.
Yep, thank you all.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, so now we are going to item 8B, discuss and consider resolution 2024-29 CDA debt service for 2025.
So this is your, the building that you sit in, this is the process that has to be done every year for the CDA, short-term loan borrow. So. Yeah,
A motion, we approve resolution 2024-29 PDA debt service for 2025.
Second.
Okay, motion by Gary, seconded by Deb. Any further discussion on this? This is literally just the borrow for 3 months, 4 months.
Not even, it'll be paid back the first week of January.
Yeah, so it's a few months to basically pay the mortgage for this place essentially.
Yep.
So. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes. Let's move to item C, discuss and consider award of debt issuance for CDA debt service interim loan financing. So I'm assuming this is more of the same. I didn't happen to read the memo.
Yeah, it's the same exact bank.
Same thing, Bank of New Glarus.
I'll move that we award the debt for the CDA to Bank of New Glarus.
Seconded.
Okay. Gary made a motion, seconded by Deb, to award debt issuance for the CDA debt to the Bank of New Glarus. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. Next, discuss and consider financial agreement for utility adjustments on State Highway 92.
so this is for the DOT project in 2030. This is, you don't really have a choice in this, I guess we're gonna have to sign this. This is more of a, as the current project is, as it is now, just doing the streets. We're not doing any major utility work right now. Obviously, that may be subject to change. We are meeting with Kevin next year. A little bit of that is capital budget. How do we look at downtown? Is there any other enhancements that we want to do while we're thinking about the project? But as it sits right now, our cost of that, is 16,000 for, the project. This is subject to change, but this is just an agreement that the DOT makes us sign, when they're doing road work.
This is just the initial stages of this. Likely this,
So we decided we want to.
this is literally just them paving the portion that they're responsible for paving.
And us doing.
And us doing the other portion that would be ADA compliant sidewalks and ramps and that sort of thing is how it impacts us. I think we'll add to this over time, but we haven't even had those conversations yet, so this is literally just the first drop in the
And
bucket.
these are scheduled for next year's start of that.
Okay.
I'll move that we enter into the state municipal financial agreement for a state-led highway project.
Second.
I'm gonna give that to Maxine.
Thank you.
Okay, so we got a motion by Gary, seconded by Maxine to enter into that agreement with the state for utility adjustments on State Highway 92. Any further discussion on this at all? I'm seeing any, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes. So next is reports from boards, commissions, and committees. Police Committee.
So the 24th, we had a meet and greet with the candidates for police chief. And then the 28th, we made a recommendation.
Okay. Finance and governance, we literally just talked about budget, so we just talked about that some more today, so. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Communications and miscellaneous business, news and announcements.
Obviously, the election is tomorrow. I'll let Maren, I don't want to steal her thunder. The only thing that, on my end, I've worked with Cody, we will have a, plainclothes officer at Village Hall the entire day. probably pretty much sitting in my office or just up in the main level. Not threatening, not in uniform, just plainclothes badge with a gun, just in case something were to happen. This is pretty minimal for what the other municipalities are doing in Dane County, but I felt that I would rather have a part-time officer here until Cody could step in just in case. We never know what could happen.
Good idea.
It's happening all.
It's happening all over the place. Yeah. He's recognizable. Not worried about it. And then we do have a Safe Routes to School thing happening. It's a public hearing on meet and greet on Wednesday at the library, at the school library. You guys are more than welcome to attend, share your feedback. This is more just sharing your own feedback as a human, as a resident of Belleville. But they will come back in December to get your thoughts on the draft. So they will come back to you, no pressure if you can't make it. They will come to you, but it's just more of what do residents think? What should the priorities be? What should the sidewalks be? How do we get kids safe in the school?
Did you have a comment?
Can I make an announcement?
Okay,
After you're done with that, you could come down to the gym and help honor the veterans. Wednesday night at 7:00.
And after that, we have also the
it's not after, I have a parks meeting, so
at 6:30.
it's 6:30, so
I know, I
I
can't
would,
go.
I will try to make it, but I don't know what that's gonna look like, so.
That is all I have.
Are we thinking we're going to have a possible quorum at that Safe Routes to School?
It's
Are you
probably
guys
not a bad
planning?
idea to say we might,
Okay,
I would say.
I will go ahead and post.
I don't-
I wasn't doing anything tomorrow, so I can go ahead and post that for you guys. On that, note, I'm being facetious. Sorry, Jeff Swan, thank you. I was like,
Do you want me to do it, Marion?
no,
I don't think you do.
come on, man. It's been a long day. Election will be at Village Hall tomorrow from 7 AM to 8 PM. The good news is 51% of registered voters have already voted in this election, absentee or in-person absentee. That's 993 ballots we have waiting to be processed tomorrow. So I anticipate if you need to still come vote in person, that it should be similar to an election that we had in August with in-person people, not crazy lines or anything. So, but please do exercise your right to vote. If you have any questions, please reach out to me.
Just a general question.
Yeah,
I know the rules change in this state all the time, but you can't open those ballots until 8 o'clock, right?
7 AM.
Process.
no, we start
Oh,
processing
you have to
absentee
start
ballots at 7 AM.
Okay,
Yeah, I have two groups of 2 workers that will be processing those absentee ballots all day pretty much. So,
51% reporting.
yeah. So we'll get them through.
okay.
But yeah, we do get all day to feed them into the ballot.
Okay.
We had a parade
We did?
last week, right? Like the whole UFO Day parade, I think.
Very
Our
well
float did pretty well. We ran out of candy before we made the final turn, but I think almost everybody was in the same boat. It was very well attended. I haven't looked at all the photos, but I remember when we turned the corner at the middle school looking downhill, you could see it was about 6 wide.
Yeah.
When you got down on Main Street, so it was definitely great to see everybody out and enjoying it. They didn't give us the vote though, so
No, I
that
can't.
was cool.
The only other thing with that is the chamber is gonna meet Wednesday for their chamber board meeting. I attend those regularly, they will debrief. There's only one group that had an issue with throwing things from their end, so they were kind of talking with that group, just stop checking things in people's heads. Was the main, message from that. And then Sitco is doing a groundbreaking ceremony of their extended building in the business park on Thursday at 3:30. And any of you want to attend,
Where's this?
they're adding, it's one of the businesses that Plan Commission approved. It's like a 5,000 square foot.
Seco, yeah, I was gonna say Sitco.
Yeah.
That's the gas station downtown.
I think that's Citgo too.
I'm like, what's the gas station expanding in Belleville? Like, they're not that busy.
Seco is expanding. And so
Secor.
I'll be at
Seco.
It's like steel.
SICO.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, Seco, okay. Out there.
Okay.
Yeah, they're in But
Yeah.
those are park enterprise.
Yeah,
and-
yep, I know what you're talking about.
There's a pretty big expansion for them. They're really excited
Yep,
about it.
absolutely.
So they invited me to attend the ground again. And if any of you want to come, you're more than welcome.
And when is that?
3:30 on Thursday.
Folks, and I can tell you right now, it's safer to throw it than it is to, those kids, those parents, they don't put their kids on the curb. They were out in the road. It was scary. And one of the kids that was throwing candy, I thought she was gonna, or not throwing, giving out candy, was so busy walking to give candy, I thought she was gonna get hit by our tractor. I mean, it's like, throw it so it goes over the curb and then they all gotta run over there. But they were way out in this.
That's if you can get it over the curb. There's too many people that can't get it that far, and that's the issue then, so.
We had our people actually pushing the kids back. I walked down the street and told the kids to
It
push
was awful.
back the whole time, so.
That is,
When you came around officials.
I don't know that I would categorize any part of that parade as
Damn
awful, but like it was busy.
I will-
There were a lot of people out.
It was a lot.
Everybody likes candy and everybody was grabbing for stuff and
Yeah,
we
I
were,
just wish parents would push their kids back. It's scary. That was,
So, on the ends that you guys don't see, the things that I worry about, the emergency response plan, we did have one for the first time in a long time, so that's a huge deal. We also have this, the police department as the EOC in case something didn't have to happen. That was the place that we were gonna lead. The public safety did a great job, so. Those are things you don't have to worry about, that we worry about, and it worked just fine. We had no issues.
okay, well. Any other news and announcements?
I don't know how far Belleville's made it in the football playoffs before, but they're in level 3. So they're.
This is where they got 2 years ago, I believe. Level 3 is where they got 2 years ago, so, they're back where they are. Hopefully they do. Wishing them luck.
Our village staff is excited about it.
Yeah.
Jim,
A couple weeks ago, Public Works, we re-roofed the storage shed down at, the dump. And SRS, who used to be Tri-State Aluminum, donated 27 bundles of shingles.
nice.
And Greg Schulbein donated the nails and his air bills for us to do that.
okay.
That's nice.
Awesome. Can you you have that information, Gabe?
We'll take it.
I think that would be, it would be nice, yeah, a nice letter from the board would be.
Yeah.
appropriate.
Yes.
Also, the, community park in Sugar River Park bathrooms are closed. Blazers will be winterized this week. And all the AEDs will be removed from the outdoor cabinets.
Are we gonna put a cover over those, I'm assuming, when they're removed? The AEDs?
No.
No. Just an empty box?
Yep.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, Jim. Upcoming community events? We've got the
Thing on Wednesday,
thing on Wednesday and
vote tomorrow.
vote tomorrow. Future agenda items?
One thing that, as we do our monthly one-on-ones with the board, I'll teach you Reich and the process to do that. A lot of it, not to throw Gary in the bus, but a lot of it was Gary actually saying, what's on the future agenda items? And I'm like, you guys should just be able to know. You guys are the board, you should know kind of what's happening. And so Reich is the new tool for you guys to see what's happening, what's going on, what happened in the past, kind of help you guys keep track a little bit too. That way you don't have to rely on me to be able to, in case I forget, you guys know.
Can we use that for committees then too? or-
Yep, so that's where, we're starting at Cody with Tony. It'll work differently for each of you. So as those who chair committees, Tony and Cody, we just have to figure out what works for them. And it's mostly a tracking mechanism for the department head, for me to say, all right, why do you have so many ongoing things? Why are we not getting things done? Or did we get this done? Or what's happening with it allows me just to kind of better track what's comes up, what's going to you guys, what's not, what can just stay at the committee level, all of that. Next meeting, we may bring back the fee schedule, depending if we're there yet, probably go to finance first, then you guys. And then budget. It's gonna be, if you look at the budget of the next building.
Which is gonna look identical to what we saw tonight for the most part, other than fee increase potentially for GEC which is a pass-through, but that doesn't really
It
impact.
won't impact budget. So-
I don't intend on changing any of the numbers. It is a pass-through.
Gotcha.
It'll make a difference.
Right.
So the budget, unless you tell me something different right now, the budget will be exactly the same as it was presented to you tonight.
Right.
You guys have all the discussions at that meeting as well. So, yeah.
I'm sorry.
You have to approve the special revenue funds,
Oh,
so all of that.
The special charges, obviously recycling, urban forestry, those that rate passed by resolution in the same. It can begin, because I have to get ready to the counties prior to Thanksgiving.
But the numbers are still the same that we
Exactly.
budget, so it's just a matter of the formalities of.
The things we have to.
Can you? I'll make a motion for you, Deb, in your honor. You want forestry?
Yeah. Okay. I brought this up before, and I would really like to see on our agenda the meetings that are coming up for the next 2
So
weeks.
the reason why we don't
I know. the
is
reason
because
why
it
we don't.
changes every 5 minutes.
I know,
and
and
I
how are we supposed to keep up with that? I
So
mean,
that's on the website. It's also, on, the next 2 months are also posted on the window of Village Hall. And I'm happy to send you an email too. I try, monthly
I mean,
updates, and I can do
checked it,
better.
The last one at noon last week.
Okay,
Didn't help.
so the agenda
change.
didn't get posted till like 5:30, and the calendar didn't get updated because I was busy till 4:30 doing in-person absentee voting, and then I had to stay another 2 hours to post all your agendas and stuff, and so the calendar was, normally, we're done by noon, but yeah, there was just obviously other pressing factors for the clerk's office this week, so,
The reason why it's just not on the agenda, I don't like posting wrong information, and 99% of the time it changes, and that means it's wrong. And that means it's out in the world wrong, and so I have a problem with that, but if the board would like it on there, we can put it back. It's just, it changes so much that you can't.
and it's gonna cost you money, cause if we put it in the agenda, that agenda goes in the minutes, which goes in the paper. And we're already spending $300 at a minute, a section of minutes to post those. So adding words to that's just gonna cost us more.
Say that again, how much are you paying?
It's about $300 to post. I mean, I generally, sometimes more, sometimes less, to post minutes in the paper every 2 weeks.
So we have.
Okay, so.
Says we
another paragraph
statutorily
is Gonna cost you how much?
Well, I mean, they charge us per word, so I'm talking very generally, but like, if you put 2 more weeks of meetings in your agenda, which then goes into your minutes, I don't know how many words, I would have to double check it. I can't give you an exact number, but it'd be at least another $100, I would guess, huh?
Can you put it on the? I have a time also. I'm going in and
Well, you
And it
guys should
changes.
feel how
I
I
can
feel.
check
You
it
guys,
out.
yeah, but the meetings change all the time, and I'm the one trying to keep them updated with it too, like, it's like, I understand the frustration, but we try and keep it as
And the
updated
new
as we can.
website that we are doing will make that a lot easier to know meetings wise. But just, if you're okay with it, let's wait till the new calendar comes out with the new website, January, February. If it does not work to our standards, let's revisit the process of that. If you're okay with that.
even if they do.
Because it's gonna be a whole new communication tool. Like, it's gonna be completely different than what we have now. So let's look at that tool, make sure if it works, great. If it's something that we could do different, let's revisit them. If you're good with that.
Okay,
Kind of,
I just can't keep track of the places on the third Thursday of the whatever month and blah, blah, blah. If it,
But again,
the one year.
we change it and
Yeah,
so
no.
it's different. And so if you rely on what you had posted, then it's gonna be changed. And so that's
It'd be nice to know when it's supposed to be, so I can just go in and look instead of keep clicking every one of them.
So
Right.
the committee calendar will be approved by the board in December. That's supposed to
Supposed to not change.
not change. You're supposed to know that police is every second Thursday. I realize there's been a lot of extenuating circumstances with a lot of committees and people have different schedules, but the general rule is your committee meeting should stay on the.
So you'll have a calendar.
We will have an approved full 2025 calendar and out on the consent agenda in December.
Knowing that it will change the next.
No, it will change, yes.
Yeah,
And I would like to make a statement that I brought my computer in to get it updated in a case, and when I went picked it up, I got no case back.
We know, we're trying to find it. We're trying to find it.
I mean, what the heck? Does somebody took an extra,
I didn't
Case?
take a case, but you can have mine because I used my own case, so
well,
I'll bring
that's
that
not
in.
right, because you're gonna need it for that when you turn it in. I mean, what the heck?
I don't know that Gabe's
We
gonna
got
be
plenty.
accountable
We
for the
can-
case, but if you do, I'll pay.
We'll,
the fee.
we're figuring it out.
Okay.
The
Because I
$20,
would
the
not
$20
carry
fee to replace a crummy IBM case, that is probably.
But I'm not carrying a computer out to it. When it's going to be icy and snowing and raining and.
Do you have your charger at least?
No, what?
Do you have the charger for it?
Yes, that I do.
And I will figure out the case.
Thank you.
Terry, did you have a question or comment?
I think I'm pretty able to use a computer, but I have a hell of a time finding that village calendar, depending on what device I'm on. So when you redo your thing, put it up on the mass, so find it right off the bat.
So
I agree.
I will pull up.
Good point,
Yeah, our
Karen.
website sucks,
Well-
we all know.
We all know, I have the proof that's coming back to me, I believe, on Thursday.
I totally
Can
didn't realize that was on the, I can't.
you pull up Sun Prairie for me?
Yeah, probably.
So our website is actually gonna look very similar to theirs. That's what,
Hold on. This one?
yeah. It'll be our colors, our stuff, but it's gonna look the layout will be pretty similar. But go down. Go down. The placement is not going to be the same, but go down. Go to the calendar,
Right there.
keep going.
Calendar should be right.
There is the calendar.
Yeah, it's Sun Prairie is different, but it'll be similar to this. We also have weekly.
Give me a minute. You know, I know as crazy as our website is. If you scroll down past the 5 green boxes, it says community calendar right here. And then you click more events right here. There it is.
Oh.
It's one click from the front
I
page.
agree with that, but.
That's
Depending what
the calendar.
device I'm on.
Yeah, it depends whether you're using a mobile device or a tablet or a laptop.
Like, it's still, you gotta scroll down past the green boxes to the community calendar.
Yeah, I'm not going
It's-
far enough.
It's similar, but it is right there off the front page right now. You just gotta get past this beautiful picture, past 5 green boxes.
Our website is going to look very different.
Yeah,
Still argue, but it's crazy having to go down and find her.
Well, and like,
well,
like this time of year,
it's giant pictures.
That should be number one on the top,
this
right?
time of year, anything dealing with budget should be on the top of instead of having to
You shouldn't have to.
click here and
scroll
go to finance and, so.
Well, and that's part of the difference to layouts. Like, our website will be a lot easier.
down. Hallelujah.
So is that enough for that future agenda item that we talked about? That?
Yes, yeah. Just put it first thing, then we got.
No, I understand. Get it addressed. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is closed session. So I gotta say the whole thing first
Oh, yeah.
before you can do that. So the Village of Belleville Village Board will enter into a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85 subsection 1 subsection E for the purposes of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified businesses whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The village board may reconvene into open session and take action on the subject matter discussed in closed session. Okay, and this is regarding establishing a negotiating position regarding the village depot property.
Can you go ahead and read this?
That's what I was gonna ask, is can we do those together?
Yes, you can, please do.
So,
I'll allow it.
so then the second part is the Village of Belleville Village Board will enter into a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85 subsection 1 subsection C. Considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, the village board may reconvene into open session and take action on the subject matter discussed in closed session. And this is regarding discuss and consider the appointment of the mayor as chief of police and discuss and consider fiscal year 2025 wage increase for the utility clerk.
Now I make a motion to go to closed session.
Okay, just a second, Connie. I have a second by Mike. Okay, so in discussion, Connie, I'll entertain.
Is it worth staying around or do I go home?
This is, I don't know how long it's gonna take, and I don't know that I don't know that we're gonna take specific action when we return to open session, I don't think. That's my guess.
Okay. I'll go
I don't know
home.
if that answers your question or not.
Okay.
The video will be up, probably not till Friday, but after closed session, there will be video of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep,
Thanks, Connie.
Thanks, Connie.
Good night.
Let's do, can do Cody first,
I'm sorry.
because he can go home and not have to be here.
Perfect.
You need us to leave?
That'd be great.
Yeah, for sure.
we
Okay,
haven't
so-
actually voted.
Yeah, we haven't even
Right.
gotten into closed session yet. So we've got a motion by Maxine, seconded by Mike, and we've got to do a roll call vote on
Yeah,
that,
we
right?
do. Trustee Bannon,
Yes.
trustee Eichelkraut,
Yes.
trustee Kazmar,
Yes.
trustee Ward,
Yes.
trustee Ziegler,
Yes.
trustee Service,
Yes.
president Larson.
Yes. 7:55 PM.